We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this channel through a super chat donation, hit the $sign, put in your comment, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. And no, Necromancer, there is no gopher hole at the corner of Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Welcome all in. PATC community, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. We've got a stack show. We were going to have a stack show before the news came out of the state of Florida's Attorney General has come and joined Florida State's fight against the ACC. Our show was already stacked. I've already been working on it. And now this, boom, lays on our doorstep, so we're going to have to cover it. We're going to have to cover it all. That's what we do here. I'm going to try not to have this monologue go on and on and on and on. I'm going to do the best I can, but I was not expecting... I shouldn't say that. We knew this was going to be a busy week. This is a monster story, and I like that it came out today because yesterday we talked about Clemson. following up with Florida. We also talked at Florida State. We also talked about there's going to be some differences. This is a major difference in how Florida State and Clemson are going to go at it, and I'm going to explain later in the show. But we were given a heads up about something in regards to how Clemson's going to attack this. It's going to be different than Florida State, and today is a major difference. So I'm glad this came out for a lot of different reasons, but now we can really get into more details. Anyways, first of all, before we get into all the stories, and we got a lot of them here in the college football world, let me thank the PATC community who have come in early at the beginning of this live show. Again, you don't know when we're going to come on live, so you have to subscribe to the channel. You have to get yourself notified. Notifications have got to be on because we can come on in the morning, in the afternoon, late in the evening, midnight. We can come on at any time. We're dropping episodes. We dropped an episode today. Episode 352. Major story. Convention next week. And they're going to take up at least two of Charlie Baker's proposals. Radical proposals. But it's happening. It might not happen exactly the way Charlie Baker has spelled it out, but it's happening. It's going to happen. That's a major story that we got to talk about in the live show today. We may not be able to get to all of it. So, if you haven't watched episode 352, I would advise you to watch it because that in itself is big, big breaking news. The support of the Charlie Baker proposal, it's there. Is it enough to push it over the end zone line? We don't know, but there is support, right? NIL, in-house, in the university's doors, right? The university now going to be striking NIL deals directly with the student athletes. It's going to be better enforcement, better oversight, better guardrails, and, not giving all the power to third party. The coaches can determine now, let's say we want to target this person, that person, this person. And there's going to be rules supposedly more followed when it comes to all this. And of course, the other part of that big breaking news, no salary cap, direct payment from the university to the student athletes in what they're calling unlimited educational benefits. Unlimited. Let's just spell it out. Let's be honest. Not going to be any salary cap. Schools are going to be directly paying the student athletes. And I think the conferences are going to get involved as well. We'll get to that. We went through it in episode 352, but there's even another story that just broke. The state of Florida's Attorney General has joined Florida State Seminoles' fight. Let me thank everybody for coming on in. John Bennett, get some popcorn. Charles M. is in. Hagen, hello folks. Buckshot Kid, good afternoon. Greg, the Baylor, Patrick. Florida State's fight song? I don't know it, and I cannot sing today, and I'm sure that makes everybody happy in the chat. My voice, I'm still under the weather, fighting it. I'm fighting. I'm better today than yesterday, I think. R. Webb, holy smokes. Randy Taylor, ready for a peak. Early peak member. Michael Batts is in the house. I'm back for the excitement. Secret Agent is in the house. Bearcat Steve and the plot thickens. This is on the fast track now. Gerald Jones, Mr. Buckeye, is in the house. Early peak member. Gerald Jones. Daniel Kupcha. How is the Florida State versus ACC legal battle even remotely fair if one side is withholding key information from the other side? That's a great question. Sean says hello, Greg. Hello to you, Sean. Appreciate it. Jim Reese is in the house. Thomas Hickman is in the house. Tough Tony, Gopher Tony is in the house. Nate Rowe, Manser, Pinball is in the house. Gold Nose, Florida State is in the house early on. Wow, a lot of people coming on early. Washington Huskies, Ted Evans. How you feeling, Greg? I'm doing a lot better, Ted. The question is how are you feeling? Washington Huskies, Ted Evans, how are you feeling? Monday is just right around the corner. Championship game. Washington versus Michigan. Minnesota Seminoles, love your show. Thank you, Minnesota Seminoles. Appreciate it. I don't know how to pronounce that. Xmas, Tox, go RU, Rutgers, go Rutgers. Jerry McKinley is in the house. He's also excited about Michigan. Awesome. Clips, early peak member, is in the house. Twisted Mind, Florida State to the Pac-12. Don't think so. Fighting Illini, Ted is in the house. So much cloak and dagger. Congo's in the house. Jason Ho is in the house. Who's on first? Thank you for everybody coming on in. Anthony Carlson, Salt of the Earth, Raider Power, Jago Blue is in the house. Gorp, McStevens, Tumasta. The furnace in the theater is on high. Ryan Brooks, early peak member, is in the house. Kirk Bender, Black Rain is in the house. Holy smokes. Just about everybody has come on in early. Annie is in the house. Gary Campbell, greetings from Columbia. Miami's not a state university. Will the Florida Attorney General be helping the Miami cause? I don't think so. I don't think she's going to need to help the Miami cause. Once it gets down to Miami, the path will be paved. So, no. And this is also another reason why, a lot of different reasons why Florida State went first. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the differences of how Clemson's going to tackle this. And this is a major example. We were told this a week ago, a couple more times during the last week. We're going to get into it. Okay, let's get into it. Thank you, everybody, for coming on real early here in our show. Thank you so very much. We're going to have to get to some stories in the college football world before we get to the state of Florida Attorney General. The Attorney General has joined Florida State's fight against the ACC. Breaking news, Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. Matt Baker, who does a great job breaking news. This is his article, his breaking news. We're going to provide a link. We did in the description. You can read the whole thing. It's a short article. It's a bombshell. We're going to get to it as fast as we can. But we're going to have to get to some other stuff first. Maggie and the Knowles. Hi, Greg. How goes it on this fine Thursday, sir? Thank you so much, Maggie, for your super chat. It's going great. Going fantastic. Trying to keep up with everything that's going on in the college football world. And the thing is, even though we are the rebel outpost of all college football YouTube channels, we cover everything nationally. So every story, we got to be on top of it. For an example, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your generosity to the show. I appreciate it so very much. We cover everything. For example, now this doesn't so much relate to college football, but it sort of does. So we're just going to spend a minute here. Pete Knackles, on three, the NCAA has inked an 8-year, $920 million deal with ESPN for 40 championships, including women's hoops. Roughly $115 million per year with women's basketball, valued at $65 million. Domestic rights to 40 NCAA championships, including Division I championships, Division II, Division III football, men's and women's basketball, and women's volleyball. Yes, women's volleyball, which I think is going to end up on ABC, at least the championship game match. International rights to all NCAA championships, including Division I's men's basketball championships, more than 800 hours of NCAA championships on ESPN linear networks annually, over 2,300 total hours. Holy smokes. Brian Fisher, the NCAA got a 220% increase in non-men's basketball tourney championship rights in this market, which is a tight market. And you could still argue that it's still a bit of a sweetheart deal for ESPN in price and length. Now, you all know how much I love John Oron and Andrew Michon. I don't know what to think about this statement from John Oron. Let's read his post. It is noteworthy that the NCAA decided to keep the package together rather than peeling off the women's basketball tournament and the men's and women's college World Series. It's more evidence that the money for sports media rights is tighter than ever. I don't know what to think of this. I'm not saying I agree with John. You should agree with John when he says something, but I'm not sure I agree with John. There's no question that the media market is tight. It is tough. But on the other hand, as we know, bundling content together, keeping things together, bundling up, you get more juice out of the turnip. That is the long history of these things, ladies and gentlemen, in the PATC community. I think the NCAA got more juice in keeping this bundled together as much as possible. The great news is that we're going to get more exposure, more championships on ABC in this deal. Again, it isn't, it's not about college football, but I thought it was important to cover this. Let's get into college football. We'll get to your comments on this in a second. Judkins in the portal. Ole Miss star running back Quinshon Judkins has informed the Rebel staff that he plans to enter the transfer portal, sources tell 247 Sports. This year, he became the first SEC player since Herschel Walker with 15-plus touchdowns in each of his first two college seasons. Now, for those who've been with us for a while here at Peek Around the Corner, if you recall, preseason, before the season started, our Heisman watch list, I had Quinshon Judkins number 1. I didn't have a quarterback. No, I did not have him number 1. I had Caleb Williams number 1. I had Judkins number 2. In his true freshman season, I don't know how many yards. I think it was 1,500 some yards, 5.7 yards a rush. True freshman season. Now this year, his average per rush was about 4.3. He did not have the year that he had in his true freshman season. He still had a great year. But it did come down. And there are people at Ole Miss, if you read the message boards, if you keep following Ole Miss, there seemed to be some issues behind the curtain when it came to Quinshon Judkins. But this guy, going into his third year, and this is going to be his last year, he is going to get offers. He is going to get massive offers. NIL. I heard that Michigan is interested. And of course, a whole fellow SEC programs are interested. We'll see what happens. Quinshon Judkins, he is a real talent. He is a horse. He's a cowbell. I'm so very interested to see where he ends up. Malachi Nelson, Boise State. Boise State is the favorite to land USC transfer, and it sounds like it actually happened. So, former five-star recruit in the 2023 class is going on to Boise State. That is a big-time get for the Broncos. Big-time get. So, it's going to be fascinating to watch his development. He wanted a place where he was going to play right away. He found his spot. Texas A&M lands commitment from Purdue's Nick Scorton. This guy's a beast. Top-ranked edge, led the Big Ten in sacks. And I want to say he was, I want to say he was a freshman last year. Somebody correct me in the chat. This was his first full season playing. He's got all the measurables. He is a big-time get for Texas A&M. Congratulations to the Aggies. Nick is going on to SEC country. Before we get to the massive news, Florida State's Attorney General, and then we'll talk about what Ross Dellinger broke this morning, what Dennis Dodd talked about this morning in regards to the convention next week. Let me first get to some comments here. I want to thank MN Minnesota Seminoles for becoming an early peak member. You are Cloak and Dagger United. Thank you so much, Minnesota Seminoles. If you're interested in becoming an early peak member, you'll get early peak episodes dropped on your doorstep. You just have to go to the YouTube channel. They're for members only. You get the first sneak and some information that we provide over the years. Cloak and Dagger. So thank you very much, Minnesota Seminoles, for becoming an early peak member. Thank you so very much. Okay, so let's get to it. I saw that immaculate word is coming out now that women's basketball looks like is going to get credits just like the men's. So what that means is more than ever, the more successful you are, your university and your conference, your schools in your university, and getting into the dance, advancing in the tournament, the more credits you receive, the more money you will get. And so it's performance incentivized when it comes to credits for women's basketball. It looks like it's going to be handled just like it is with the men's side. Now, let's get to the big breaking news story. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. All credit to him. There is a link provided in the description. It's a very short article. We're going to go through the whole thing. Florida attorney, breaking news. Breaking news. Florida attorney general wants ACC's ESPN contracts amidst Florida State's lawsuit. Ashley Moody, the Attorney General of the state of Florida, requested contracts and communication between ACC and ESPN. Again, Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody has joined Florida State's legal fight against the Atlantic Coast Conference. Moody sent a public records request asking for all ACC's financial business and membership records related to Florida State. Those include the grant of rights agreements and contracts and communications with the conference's TV partner, ESPN. So it's not just about the grant of rights. Those include the grant of rights. But she also wants all communication, contracts, and communication with the conference's TV partner, ESPN, between ACC and ESPN. Now, this is, at this point, a request. Moody sent a public records request. So, we're not in the courts yet on this part, but the Attorney General sent a public records request. Not grant of rights and communications between the ACC and the ESPN in regards to the TV contract. One of Florida's top universities is facing the possibility of forfeiting more. Now, this is the Attorney General. One of Florida's top universities is facing the possibility of forfeiting more than $500 million. And the ACC is refusing to hand over the agreements at the center of this astronomical financial penalty, Moody said in a statement. They are unlawfully keeping these documents locked away in North Carolina. However, North Carolina and Florida, both state laws are clear that these agreements are public records and must be handed over immediately. Today, I'm taking action to ensure Florida State University and the public are able to review these agreements, the grant of rights, and the TV contract between the ACC, the distribution rights to ESPN. And finally, her request, the Attorney General, calls for the ACC to provide the documents within 10 days. January 4th, January 14th. Right? To provide the documents within 10 days. So there it is. The rest of the article just has to do with the Attorney General looking into antitrust investigation into the college football playoff. We knew that wasn't really going anywhere. So that is the breaking news. Florida State's Attorney General has entered into the Holy Smokes Theater. It's a public request right now. State law. Now, I got a feeling that the Attorney General is going to push it into the courts if she doesn't get her request satisfied. According to her, the Attorney General, the state laws of Florida and North Carolina deems these documents to be part of the public record. So they have to see them. And she wants all communications between the ACC and the ESPN when it comes to the terms and communications of the TV contract. As you all know, I am not a lawyer, but I pretend to be one on this YouTube channel. No, I don't even pretend. This is really going into the debate about the penalty, right? We've been talking about it. No one wants to go to court on this. This is an argument. This is to create leverage in regards to the penalty phase of this. How much does Florida State need to pay up to get out of the conference? SMU bought their way in by not taking any media money for the next 7, 8, 9 years, whatever. Florida State wants to buy their way out. What is the figure that's going to be settled on? because Florida State is arguing that $572 million is way too much. The commissioner took action in extending the agreement with ESPN without the approval and the votes of the ACC president. The ESPN has it in their contract with the ACC that they can decline distributing the content of the ACC starting in 2027. If ESPN has that exit hatch, in 2027, how can the grant of rights, how can these huge penalties be stacked up on Florida State and by using years 2023 to 2036 when ESPN has an exit hatch in 2027? In my humble opinion, Florida State has a better argument now than I ever thought they were going to have. But that's just me talking. I didn't know about the nuclear bombs that Florida State Board of Trustees set off. I want to bring up one other point. And then I want to quickly get into Ross Dellinger's article that we covered in episode 52. And then I want to circle back to this. Because what Ross Dellinger talked about, breaking news this morning, in regards to Charlie Baker's proposal, that in itself is all the motivation that Florida State needs to go into this battle. And now the Attorney General is entering the fray. But before we get to that, I want to point out something. We were told one of the differences between Florida State and Clemson. I'm kind of pushing. How do I say this? If we see Clemson take action, and you all know we believe that they're going to, before Florida State gets to the finish line on this case against the ACC, once Clemson gets into this, we were told, this is way before this happened, that the state of South Carolina, while they have immunity laws, if the ACC would sue the state of South Carolina, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but South Carolina has the same supposedly immunity laws that the state of Florida. But we were told politically, that while the Attorney General of the state of Florida might get involved, and she did, while Governor DeSantis might get involved, South Carolina's leadership in the governor's office and the Attorney General, we were told that Clemson perceives that as not happening. In other words, Clemson's not going to get the support of its state's government. It's a public school, but it's not, they won't have that advantage that Florida State has and will receive more of. That's one of the major differences between Florida State and Clemson as they try to detangle themselves from the ACC. I don't know the reasons why. I don't know the politics of South Carolina. I don't know the governor. I don't know the Attorney General. I don't know anything. Okay? But we were told that Clemson was not going to get this type of state government support. Even though they might have immunity laws that are similar to Florida, they're just not going to, they do not perceive themselves getting the support from the state of South Carolina. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay. Now, we'll get you comments and phone calls as soon as we possibly can get. Okay. We'll get you comments and phone calls. I just want to go over real quick. If you just break up, just hold on 1 second, everybody. Hold on 1 second. I apologize. I'm just checking on something. Okay, I do apologize for that. I'm getting some communication here. No, that's not what we didn't say. Clemson was stuck. We're just saying. I always have to be careful when I say something. Clemson is not stuck. No doors have been closed on Clemson. That's not what we just said. Clemson's not going to get, supposedly, and we were told this like over a couple weeks ago, that they're not going to get the support of the Attorney General and the governor, at least not in the first stages of this. And Florida State was expecting help. Clemson's not expecting help. That's all that we're saying on that. Okay. Okay, let's get into this big breaking news. We covered it on episode 352. Then we're going to circle back to the Attorney General of Florida, Florida State, okay? College leaders to discuss further exploring Charlie Baker's new proposal at NCAA convention next week. We're barely going to touch this article. We did it already this morning, episode 352. So if you want to watch the episode, please do so. Okay, we go in a lot more detail than we are right now. At the next meeting, at its meetings next Thursday, the Division I Board of Directors is scheduled to review the proposal and determine whether to charge the Division I Council or another body with developing recommendations related to the framework of the proposal, which could initiate a potentially a year-long activation process and chart a course for one of the most radical changes in NCAA history. The initial focus would be on the first two concepts that permit schools to strike NIL deals with athletes, and number two, offer enhanced educational benefits to athletes. The process around adopting three of the subdivision would follow the adoption of the other two concepts. And one more thing I want to touch upon, this scheduling of all this. It would produce, if it keeps going, gathering steam, gets support, we're going to find more about it next week, about the support of it, will produce final recommendations to the board by June 25, June 26, and by August, the board will take action on those recommendations. And then January, they'll take up the new subdivision structure. What does that all mean? It is massive. It could be it probably will be the greatest massive radical change in college sports history. Since the forward pass was part of college football, or Title IX, right? Look, we're going to push aside the new subdivision part of it, because that's not going to happen unless the first two parts of the proposal happens. Number one, NIL taken in-house into the university, into the athletic department. Name, image, and likeness deals struck with the student athletes by the schools. Taking it out of the third-party hands. In other words, out of these collectives that are built by big boosters, right? Now, of course, these NIL deals are still going to have to be funded by boosters and other means, but NIL, name, image, and likeness, deals struck to the student athletes. The bigger part is part number 2, where unlimited educational benefits can be directly given to the student athletes from the universities. Building a trust fund. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, collectives is going to be the old lingo. Trust funds is going to be the new lingo. The athletic departments or the universities in hand are going to be building these trust funds, and the revenue streams are going to be going into this trust funds are going to vary, right? Boosters, some schools might go into, hopefully not, but student fees. It could be a part of the revenue that comes into the athletic department, right? A little bit of part of the ticket sales, a little bit of part of the media money, whatever. Or it could come out maybe of a slice of an endowment, whatever. The trust funds are going to be built up however they're going to be built up. And within that trust fund, the athletic department is going to be paying the student athletes directly. We're going to have general managers. We're going to have like for the football program, we're going to have a head coach, we're going to have an athletic director, and we're going to have a general manager, a true general manager, working with the athletic director. All about financial issues, how to distribute this money, what student athlete is going to get what, who's going to get a bump in their direct payment pay, student athletes. And it's going to be unlimited. It's not going to be a salary cap. That is a major, major story. And when Charlie Baker proposed this, some people thought this was DOA, dead on arrival. It's not. It's not. And one of the major motivations for the schools, the universities, the conferences to start acting on these proposals is the courts. The courts keep slapping NCAA down. NCAA, the schools, the conferences are going to be paying millions and millions of dollars in these suits because the student athletes were not able to make the money that they should have gotten in a free capitalistic market. So now, NCAA, they want to make the changes as soon as possible. Circling back to Florida State. People keep asking, why is Florida State being so aggressive? We had an article written by Dan Wetzel. Why are they being so brazen? Why is everybody being so greedy? They're not being greedy. They're trying to survive. They're trying to compete at the highest level of college athletics. They're trying to give their student athletes the best opportunity to compete for exposure. This is why Texas and Oklahoma called the SEC together. This is why USC called the Big Ten. This is why UCLA called the Big Ten. This is why Oregon and Washington kept swinging and swinging and swinging. And this is why Washington and Oregon took a discount to get to the Big Ten. This is why Brett Yormark went so aggressively at the Pac-12, because it was a matter of survival. Big 12 is going to poach them, or Pac-12 is going to poach them, and the Big 12 won out. This is why Florida State is going to do everything they can to get a settlement from the ACC. Same with Clemson, same with North Carolina, possibly Miami, possibly a couple other schools, because everybody's going to try to reach the highest ground possible as the rushing waters come in, and because of the higher compensation to the student athletes. This is why everything is happening in front of us today. This is why Florida State is willing to pay for a settlement. They want to get that number low as possible. And this is why other ACC schools are going to be following Florida State. Convention next week. Recommendations June 25, 26. Final recommendations. And then they could have it all wrapped up. Could have it all wrapped up by August. By August. It's January 4th. August, before the new football season, where schools could be doing NIL deals, where schools can be directly paying the student athletes, and then I think the conferences are going to get more and more involved because they want buy-in from the student athletes. The conferences are going to want to be able to enforce some measures. And to do that, they're going to have a tie-in with the student athletes. So I think conference money is also going to go into the student athletes' pockets. And by the way, that's another reason why Florida State wants to bop in to the SEC or the Big Ten, because the conferences are going to get more and more powerful in regards to student athletes, obviously, their compensation level. That's why all this is happening, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think it's going to be $500 million. If it's $500 million, if it ends up being $500 million, then Florida State did not move the needle in the courts. They were not able to push ACC into a settlement. If it cost $500 million to $600 million, then whatever happened in the court system did not work out for Florida State. I think it's going to be lower. I don't know how much lower, but I think it's going to be lower than $500 million. Thank you so much, Maggie and Knowles, for being an early peak member. Thank you so much for your generosity. You are Cloak and Dagger Knighted. Congratulations. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Again, early peak membership. You get you'll get episodes for members only. They get dropped in about once or twice a week. So keep an eye out for that. We dropped one yesterday morning. So you can go watch that after the live show is finished, of course. I'm going to open up the phone lines. We've been through a lot here already. 50-minute monologue. Big stories breaking all over the place. Let's open up the phone lines. Talk about anything college football that you want. I did see that Austin Booker, the defensive end from the Kansas Jayhawks, is entering the NFL draft. That surprises me. I don't know about that one. Congratulations to the young man. I hope he succeeds. But didn't he need another year at Kansas to bulk up? I don't know. I'm not sure that was the right move. Okay, the phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. The stories that we've hit today already. NCAA's deal with ESPN. 8-year, $920 million deal, 40 championships, including women's hoops. Big, big deal. Judkins, Quinshawn Judkins is in the portal. Big time running back. Ole Miss. 2 years ago, he was unbelievable. This year, he had a good year, but didn't quite match what he did the year before. He's going to be highly sought after in the portal. Malachi Nelson going to Boise State. Big time get for Boise State Broncos and Texas A&M. Texas A&M lands a big commitment. Scorton, the great defensive end, the edge rusher for the Big Ten. He is an absolute beast. And then we've talked about in the monologue, Florida Attorney General wants ACC's ESPN contracts amidst the Florida State lawsuit. Attorney General Ashley Moody has joined Florida State's legal fight against the Atlantic Coast Conference. She sent a public records request asking for all ACC financial business and membership records related to Florida State. Those include grant of rights agreements and the contracts and communications with the conference's TV partner ESPN. Communication between the ACC and ESPN. She wants it. She wants it. That's a request for now, but if she doesn't get what she's requesting, I think that's going to be taken to the courts. The Attorney General of Florida stated in her public request that the state of Florida and the state of North Carolina, where the ACC, the location of the ACC, both North Carolina state law and Florida state law has it to where those contracts are public record. Therefore, Florida State should have complete access to those records. They don't have to go to Charlotte. They don't have to go into a vault. They should be able to take them, make a copy, take them home with them. They can't do that right now. They can't take a picture of it. They can't take notes of it. They can't take a notebook and a pen and write notes. I think that's going to change real early here. It's going to change. At least hope the Attorney General of the state of Florida. And we're also going to add in here a peek around the corner. As we were told a couple weeks ago, Clemson doesn't perceive that their state government is going to really help them in this case against the ACC. We believe they're still going forward with it, but they're not going to generally get the same help from the state of Florida. We don't know the reasons why. We did not dig into it. Maybe it has to do politically with the governor, with the attorney general. I do not know. But they do not expect the same type of general state government help that Florida State is receiving. Could that change? Could we be taking an L on that? Quite possibly. But that's what we were told. One of the differences between Clemson and Florida State, one of the reasons why Florida State can be more aggressive, just one of the reasons why. Okay. Morris Simmons, turn up the heat on the ACC. Florida State is done with ACC and ESPN. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Steven says you got to be a bulldog in negotiations. Annie says she won't get those public records unless a court intervention. ESPN and Disney is notorious for not disclosing their financial statements unless they get sued to disclose them in public and private sector. Well, maybe the Attorney General can at least get public records communications from ACC to the ESPN, and she should be able to get public records in regards to the contract, the distribution contract. Florida State should be able to see that. They should be able to take a copy, bring it home with them, they should have it in Tallahassee. They should not have to go to Charlotte. Sorry if it's been mentioned, but I think eventually the ACC Gore will be invalidated after 2027. Florida State will have to negotiate the $120 million exit fee and how many of the next 4 years the Gore they want to buy. That very well could be the negotiation settlement right there. A lot of people agree with you, Kate and Dad. Anything on the last extended grant of rights from 2027 to 2036, that's when Florida State's argument even becomes stronger. So if you take the $120 million, you want to throw in 4 years of $30 million, that's another $120. Then you got $240 million. What's 60% of $240 million? I have no idea. What's 60%? 120, 60, what, 145, 150 million? So it could be around 140, 150 million. Whatever 60% is of 240 million. But a lot of people agree with you, Kate and Dad. It could settle in around that. Richard L., I wonder if this whole thing becomes a national political football in the upcoming election. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to guess it's not going to be. But that's just a guess. I don't know. Yeah, I better not touch that. I don't think so. But, if Governor DeSantis, if his, the Iowa caucus, when is the Iowa caucus? Middle of January. If it doesn't go well for him, he might have more time. He might be able to be more aggressive. Immaculate, I don't think it is the Gore that is the issue. I think the issue is the media rights agreement between the ACC and ESPN. I think you're right. And I would have said a month ago that won't be the issue. But because of that exit hatch that ESPN had, that nobody knew, well, Florida State knew it, Clemson knew it, but the press did not tell us, nobody told us, that is the weakness of the ACC case. ESPN's exit hatch. That has to bring down the penalties of Florida State. It has to. I agree with Immaculate. CFB playoff edit says $144 million. That is 60% of 240. So that could be the penalty. Now I asked Florida State fans if it came out to be $144 million, you'd be for that, right? You would take that. I think you would take it. And then if Clemson comes up and North Carolina comes up and another school comes up, let's say there's 4 payments of $144 million. That's not quite $600 million. That'd be what, $576 million? $576 million. doled out to 11 different programs or 10 different programs in the ACC. 144 million and exit now. Yes, that would be Minnesota Seminoles. That would be the would you do it, Minnesota Seminoles? Richard L says absolutely. Congo says yes, I would. Stephen Vitt, 144 million, deal. Edit says all day. Patrick says hell yes. If they had a landing spot. Yeah, if they had a landing spot, 144 million. Steven says he'd go as far as 200 million. LV Seminole says yes, 144. What's the percentage for Notre Dame to leave the ACC? Well, it'd be less. It'd be less money. Now, maybe the ACC would refuse to go 60%, like it's been historically done when it comes to paying exit fees. Historically, schools have been paying about 60% of what they are owed according to the bylaws. Maybe the ACC would say, screw it. We're not giving you, it's no 60% here. You're paying the whole freight, $240 million, or we're going to court. What would you say if Florida State was told $240 million or we're going to court? What would you say then, Florida State fans? Yeah, we talked about Judd. Ennie says Ole Miss running back who just entered the portal just suggested to people close to him he wants to go to the Big Ten. The two clear favorites are Michigan and Oregon. We did talk about Michigan being one of the favorites for Quinshon Judkins. Blake Corum is going into the NFL. Donovan Edwards doesn't seem to be a RB1. So Judkins to Michigan makes a whole lot of sense. A whole lot of sense. Ryan Willie, thank you so much for your generosity. The Evil Badger, thank you so very much. Greg and Immaculate. I watched the first hour of the Monty Show. Monty said the College Football Playoff Committee was justified in leaving Florida State out. I said there were 30 opt-outs. He said it did not matter. I said ESPN can walk away in 2027. Thank you, Ryan. I would disagree with Monty. I think they should have been in. I definitely, what people can agree or disagree. I have a stronger opinion on people using the bowl game of Georgia versus Florida State as part of their argument on whether Florida State should have been in or not. That game did not justify any argument in any case. And I would say the same thing if Florida State would have beaten Georgia. But that game had nothing to do with the argument set forth before the bowl games were played. Monty, I would tell you, I don't watch much of Monty. I have a little bit here and there. People showed me a clip. People showed me a clip when he attacked me. Monty doesn't like Florida State. We know that. He has been on Florida. I don't know what happened with Monty in the state of Florida. He's been going after Florida State for the whole last year, saying that they don't have value. They wouldn't have a landing spot if they left. They've been crying. So he's anti-Florida State. Don't know the reasons why. Maybe I have no idea. So I don't know if that's playing into it. And maybe not. But thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you so much for your super chat, for your generosity. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much, Mr. Willie. Becky, go Huskies. Thing about the Florida State case that stands out most is the commission agreed to the extension, I believe, and didn't need approval, if I read correctly. I mean, I don't know, Becky. Like, the commission agreed to the approval, but yet supposedly did not get the votes for it. We'll see how that plays out in court. I'm very confused by that. It seemed like the presidents did vote on the extended grant of rights in 2016, but supposedly the presidents need to approve it again after that at some point, and they didn't.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, the floor is yours. Can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
I apologize, sir. Stephen McNeely. Shout out to the Montana Grizzlies, who are playing in the FCS championship game on Sunday. Thank you for the super chat, Stephen McNeely. I appreciate it. Montana Grizzlies versus the South Dakota Jackrabbits. Woo! Big game. Big game, Montana. Can they finally do it? South Dakota finally did it. South Dakota State finally did it. They beat North Dakota State. They finally got a national championship. Montana is knocking on the door once again. I'm going to have to take South Dakota Jackrabbits, though. South Dakota Jackrabbits by 10, let's say. But should be a good game. Thank you, Stephen. Immaculate, the floor is yours. Breaking news all over the place. You have the floor. You have it as long as you want. There's a lot of information there. It is a big time. Winds of change are blowing, sir.
Yeah, that's some interesting news. We kind of dabbled a little bit in talking about whether or not sovereign immunity would become part of this. Not that this necessarily means it will, but if people were kind of wondering, like, how does Florida State have this much clout? Now, Florida State University exists in Tallahassee, Florida. That also happens to be the state capital. I mean, these folks can meet for lunch.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a lot of connection in that regard, whereas a lot of schools aren't going to have that same kind of in-person connection and clout with the state government.
I was also I haven't somebody tweeted at me, but I haven't confirmed this, that Clemson's governor and attorney general and some other people in his administration are all from the University of South Carolina. That they're South Carolina people. Now that doesn't mean they won't help Clemson. Clemson's a public university. So, but someone did point that out to me on Twitter about 20 minutes ago. So maybe that's part of the political difference. I don't know. But anyways,
I think that Florida AG, the very first statement that they put out a little while back, was that they are a Gator and that they graduated from Florida.
Okay, yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, to some degree, yeah. I would say that would maybe matter even more in the Clemson case because, like I said, they're not in town dealing with each other on a very personal face-to-face basis. So I just think that that's kind of a very unique situation for Florida State to be in, where the state capital and their university campus are right there, very close proximity. So that's probably going to help them. I know there was some talk yesterday about maybe some movement from Clemson, but I'm kind of I'll believe it when I see it. I just don't believe they have the same options that Florida State has. And why would you go to this point unless you had someone at least giving you the wink and a nod, like, yeah. So I'm not sure about that, but that was interesting. I don't know how you can't just really say, like, if you're an AG in Florida and you're going after a company in another state saying, oh, well, we want access to this. Well, where's your subpoena? Just writing us a letter wanting information, I would almost side with the company. Like, I really wouldn't want to get to the point where government officials, AGs can just write you and say they want something and just be given it. Now, in this case, with Florida State having their connection to the state, having so much state money in there, they're kind of almost an agency. That might change that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that works, but kind of think that they've definitely stepped this up a notch. You know, I mean, for an AG to come out like this, they're going to face some scrutiny over why are you getting so involved. I'd have to think that there's something there, or they have some angle, because that's a political move, and with any political move, there's risk. So I think that could have some legs to it. We'll see.
Well, maybe if they don't, maybe if the ACC doesn't follow up on her request, maybe she doesn't do anything after that. But then Florida State will use that in their court case, just another leveraging point in settlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm just putting that out there.
And if they do want to extend some type of immunity to Florida State, having these kinds of this political gamesmanship happen and say, now, we were rebutted. We tried to go through every angle we could to deal with this, but to no avail. They wouldn't work with us, so we had to do this. It could be something to that regard as well. I don't know. It's interesting though. It just continues on. I actually was thinking that there might have been already in settlement talks, but this kind of tells me that maybe isn't going great, or at least it isn't as far along as I would have thought.
Yeah, I don't think there's any settlement talk. Did someone say there's settlement talk?
No, this is my own personal belief.
I think we're way too soon for that. That's just my...
Yeah, settlement talks can take a while, though. I'm not saying they're about ready to sign. I'm just saying this tells me there's not much there at all. Like they might be talking, but there's very little agreement. So I said, had lunch with the AG office that's right down the street, and said, "Hey, can you help us get this thing moving a little bit?" I mean, it's just that simple. They don't even have to make calls or anything that these public institutions, emails and all these can be looked up and FOIA'd. So it's pretty easy for them to just kind of walk down the street, have lunch somewhere at the same time, and ask a question. So it's an interesting relationship between FSU and the state government officials right there being in the same town.
Yeah.
So one more thing, did you see who's looking at the University of Iowa?
A quarterback?
Quarterback from Oregon? Yeah, I guess he's got a family member ties into the state of Iowa.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not really. I don't know. I don't know how high I am on him. But yeah, it'd be interesting.
He was a 5-star.
Yeah.
That would be the first 5-star I think Iowa's gotten in a long time. Even though it's much later, and sometimes 5 stars don't work out as well, and that might be the case with this guy.
Yeah.
But hey, if it means that they have to pull Deacon's, I don't necessarily want him to not be able to go there. Let the guy still go to school there for free, whatever. But I mean, scholarship connection to the team. Hey, I mean, because we're tied up, we don't got any free scholarships right now. But you got to make room for him. You got to make room for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting.
You definitely can't count on Cade, and you can't count on Deacon to come in after him. And I don't know if we really want to count on he'll be a true sophomore next year, but that freshman. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
not sure.
Yep. And of course the convention next week.
Oh, that's one of those. I made a little post. I was like, this is a boring topic, and it probably turns people off to even hear it brought up. And in most years, I wouldn't even pay attention. But it just so happens that I think they're going to have to do a lot at this convention.
Yep.
Or at least get a whole lot started.
Yep.
Because this only happens once a year. So if they don't do it this year, the next time they can do this, we're already at court with House versus NCAA.
Yep.
Because that starts in January of next year. So they need to get things working here. So, yeah, for people who are really interested in this stuff, that might be very dry material.
Yeah.
But pay attention to what's going on here in Phoenix this week.
Yes. Yeah. That's why we did an episode on it today, and we talked about it in the live show. It's a big deal, and I think we're going to know. I mean, by the end of the week, Immaculate, I think we're going to know if there is that inertia behind at least part 1 and part 2 of the NIL being in-house, and the we'll just call it the trust fund, unlimited academic benefits, educational benefits to student athletes. That is going to be a huge change. I mean, I don't know what's the ramifications are endless. I don't know how universities and athletic departments are going to react to it. I don't know how Harvard's going to react to it. I don't know how the University of Minnesota is going to react to it. I just, it's all unknowing.
It's one of these things where sometimes we can't see what's going on. We just have to wait for some type of outcome for us to see where they're really looking to go. And because there's so much going on now with the legal cases and whatnot that any of those could just completely change the direction. So I don't know. But I do have my eye on the Ivy very closely. Their whole scholarship or lack thereof tradition there cannot last through this.
Yep, you're right.
They don't. They're still in Division I with practices that belong in Division III.
We do have breaking news.
Oh, of course. All right, go ahead.
We do have breaking news. Cooper DeJean has declared for the NFL draft. It's up on his Twitter account. I'm going to post it. It's up on the screen right now. These past 3 years have been filled with the memories that will last a lifetime. Putting on the black and gold and playing in Kinnick Stadium has been a dream of mine since I was a little kid, and it has been everything I expected and more. Mel Kiper has him ranked as the 13th prospect in the first round of the NFL draft.
There was the first one that did not fall. Now I'm worried about Castro.
Yes.
Now I'm worried about Castro because this is what I was kind of worried about. That I thought that maybe they were going to get all these guys, and then the Citrus Bowl happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there at the university. I don't want to go too much with just my own opinion, but that might have changed some plans. We'll see. That's tough to see. I know there's going to be a lot of disappointed folks. He was supposed to be kind of the crowning jewel of all the guys coming back. If he's calling it out right now, kind of seems like I would have thought he would have waited till at least till after everyone else was announced they're coming back. But if he's announcing that right now, we may have seen the last.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, yeah, that's bad news. That's tough. I was kind of hoping he was going to be the last one. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Castro. He's a hell of a player.
What's that? Sorry?
No, I was just saying, we'll see what happens with Castro. He's a heck of a player.
Oh, I was telling people, like, you watch out. You're going to hear about this guy on Sundays. I think he could use another year. One more year, and he's going to come out of there, and everyone's going to be talking about him at the draft. Right now, he'll get some talk, but I think he just landed on the radar this year, so I think he should go for one more year. We'll see. Yeah.
All righty, man.
But anyways, I'll let you go. It's kind of a quiet day, but that was definitely a bit of interesting news, so we'll see it play out.
You got it. Appreciate it, man. Great call, Mr. Hawkeye. Ryan Willie, he said it was ESPN's right to walk away on yesterday's show that Florida State can't get out of the ACC. Again, I don't want to be mean. Monty has been talking about Florida State not having a landing spot, so why would they try to leave the ACC? He was wrong. They are trying to leave the ACC. He's wrong. They would have a landing spot. Monty's evaluation, he said that Colorado was not near leaving the Big 12, and then a few days later they did leave the Big 12. I'll just leave it at that. But thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. I do appreciate your generosity. Appreciate it so very much. Jack Snow, so was the Florida AG on the show, or was that a title clickbait? We don't do clickbait here at Peek Around the Corner. No, we didn't say the Florida AG was going to be on the show. I don't have guests on the show here at Peek Around the Corner. I do a monologue, and then it is you in the PATC community that owns the floor with the chat and with the phone calls. We did go over the story of the Florida State Attorney General wants ACC's ESPN contracts and missed the Florida State lawsuit. Ashley Moody has requested the contracts and communication between the ACC and ESPN. Specifically, Moody sent a public records request asking for all the ACC financial business and membership records related to Florida State. Those include the grant of rights agreements and contract and communications with the conference TV partner ESPN. And there's going to be, this is what Moody said, one of the Florida's top universities is facing the possibility of forfeiting more than $500 million. And the ACC is refusing to hand over the agreements at the center of this astronomical financial penalty, Moody said in a statement. They are unlawfully keeping these documents locked away in North Carolina. However, and this is the PATC money shot of Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times article. However, North Carolina and Florida State laws are clear that these agreements are public records and must be handed over immediately. Today, I'm taking action to ensure Florida State and public are able to review these agreements. So we have gone over it a couple different times in the live show. We'll go over it more. People can give us a call in the chat. But we don't do clickbaits here at Peek Around the Corner. We do not do clickbaits at, I don't care what other people do. We don't do it here. We are straight news. I give you my opinion. I give you what our information on the sources we have, and we have a long track record. We do not do clickbait at all. That's what we do not do here at Peek Around the Corner. Okay. Becky Go Huskies. If Florida State can get out of the ACC legally, they'll have a spot to land, and the ACC won't be able to sue the new spot. No problem, Jack Snow. I just wanted to make it clear. Just wanted to make it clear. Look, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you get notified. Get your notifications on, because we could come up live at any time in the morning, afternoon, nighttime, late night time, midnight, breaking news. We cover it all here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. And make sure you smash the like button if you like the content. If you do not like our content, if you do come to the belief that it is clickbait, hit the thumbs down button and let us know how we can better serve you, PATC community.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. JD has a direct phone number to the Attorney General of the state of Florida. I'm just kidding, JD. The floor is yours, good sir. What do you got to think? What do you think about all what is going on in the state of Florida?
She said that she's got it all taken care of, and we're going to get out for $50. It's all done. The way the state of Florida, I may throw a few things out here that you might want to chime in on. Quickly with state of Florida government, yes, it's in Tallahassee. Everything's within a stone's throw of the university. Obviously, the university presidents, board of trustees, they're all very connected politically. Governor DeSantis, he will not hesitate to fight with Disney. I mean, he's done it before. He'll continue it again. Sometimes I wonder if he's itching to fight him again. So I'm not worried about all that. I think a lot of the messaging that you were getting behind the scenes and that, some of the people that I had talked to and then other insiders were talking about is that, this is all a coordinated plan. FSU had to lead. They had to lead. They had to do this. And then also don't expect the buyout to be $300 or $400 million. It'll be a lot less. They knew the order of events. A lot of us, were questioning, what does that mean, that the ACC is complicit and they've already agreed to an exit? No. What it means was the state of Florida was always going to step in. And at some capacity, if they needed to. And let me ask you this question. Wouldn't you think, as the state is kind of stepping in to the fight, if a private entity that is in a contract with a state, we're not talking about just a university, now they're in a contract with the state of Florida. If they are refusing to provide documentation and evidence, that's where I think sovereign immunity kind of falls in. I think by Florida law, they can void the contract. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but, they can void their part of the contract if, the ACC isn't at least cooperating with any type of open records request. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. I follow what you're saying. I unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I have been told so many different things about the sovereign immunity law. I was told that it would only take action if the ACC sued Florida State. But I don't even know what that means, because the ACC did sue the Board of Trustees. That's what's in their suit. I don't even think it's called. I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. I better not go down that rabbit hole. So I can't help you with that. I wish I could, but.
Well, that's just something that I'm going to ask a couple of attorneys that question, so maybe I'll have some answer to my questions here later on today. But yes, sir, that was just something that popped up when you were in your previous conversation with Immaculate and some of the things that y'all were bringing up. But the relationship, like Governor DeSantis, his cabinet, I think he's a graduate of UCF, but then Ashley Moody's a graduate of Florida.
Yeah.
Jimmy Petronas, the CFO for Florida, is a Florida State grad, and he is a diehard fan. And
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure all that really matters much. That's why when I got some tweets about South Carolina government, they're all South Carolina graduates. I don't think that matters much. These people are politicians, So.
Well, but they're all in the same party.
Yeah.
They're all in the same cabinet.
I think that means more than what school they came from, but anyways.
And but anyway, the Florida State's been working on this for a few years. They got the politicians behind them before they started this process. This isn't new, and this has been the plan. I mean, it's becoming apparent to me that this is the plan. I think you and I talked a few weeks ago, and you thought I was crazy when I said the settlement would be anywhere between 140 and 175 million. I was kind of leaning around 175. But
Well,
then now,
that's not the only reason I think you're crazy, JD. Let's make that clear. But go ahead.
yes, sir.
Sorry to
Yes, sir.
interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. But it's becoming apparent that FSU is prepared to go to the mats. They're ready to take it to court if the ACC is not going to cooperate. And you know, let's really quickly, and I'm not going to get too far in the weeds about the GOR, but let's just go through this little checklist if you got a second on this.
No problem. Yep.
We know that the grant of rights serves the ESPN ACC contract, correct?
Yep.
That is the purpose of the grant of rights. Okay?
Yep.
How can the grant of rights go to 2036 when the only guarantee on the contract is to 2027?
Yeah, I think that's the I think I think that is the case in a nutshell. I think that nuclear bomb that the Board of Trustees set off when they said that is everything. And I didn't know that was in there. No one ever said that was in there. For ESPN to walk away in 2027 without any problem whatsoever, I think that is the case. Great question.
And you provided some valuable information when you've been talking about Clemson, and that Clemson has been in lockstep in the discovery,
Yes.
moving forward, trying to establish a legal case. And it's been suggested, well, why isn't Clemson doing anything? Why aren't they doing anything? Because you've already, the text you got earlier might have said everything. They don't have the support from their state government like Florida State does. So Florida State needed to do the heavy lifting
I think
first.
So. Yeah. We
to
think
open
that's
the
the
door.
case. Yep.
So that doesn't mean that Clemson's not going to make a move. It just means they need somebody to open the door first.
Yep.
And so all these little pieces are starting to come together now.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean it's going to get done in the next, 60 to 90 days. It might. I have a feeling it'll be done before summer, but who knows? It might go on a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
Yep.
Now, the other thing to take into consideration is I thought the ACC in their lawsuit claimed that FSU has more or less already given their notice by the statements made by the Board of Trustees. And then now FSU is made claim that if they were to win in court, they would ask the judge to certify that their exit notice was on 8/15 of 2023.
Yep.
FSU is not going to get any more money from the ACC. There will be no more PAPs. So whether this goes till 2024, 2025, a lot of their exit fee is just going to be on media money they don't receive.
I'm not under the. I don't. Did the ACC in their lawsuit claim that Florida State did a notice of withdrawal? I don't believe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go. I'm not under that. I don't believe anyone thinks, unless I missed something. I don't think that was part of the ACC lawsuit, and I think Florida State's still going to get the revenue.
Well, I didn't. I was just listening to some people talking about the ACC lawsuit, and I thought that was what was suggested is that Florida State, in essence, has already given their notice, so they have the right. They have the right to withhold any and all future revenue. I also heard somewhere that the ACC is claiming that if you dispute the GOR, and again, I don't have it in front of me. I just heard this. I didn't read it. That in essence, you can forfeit any claim to conference revenue and still be liable for the end term all the way till 2036 of your TV revenue. So
Now, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. A lot of that stuff's going to just get thrown out because that's just, you can you can put whatever you want in a contract. I can tell you that you have to give me your life savings because I said so, and that doesn't mean it's valid.
I have it up. I have it up on the screen. The bylaws, withdrawal of members, 1.4.5. It states to withdraw from the conference, a member must file an official notice of withdrawal with each of the members and the commissioner on or before August 15th, the withdrawal to be effective June 30th of the following year. I don't believe Florida State did that. They didn't give a notice to each member of the conference. That is something that Colorado did. That is something USC and UCLA did when they notified the Pac-12 they were leaving the conference. They told all the presidents in the individual letter. Florida State did not do that, so I don't think so. But again, not sure.
And see, that's the thing is I don't know if the ACC withholds payouts. I think in March, it's either March, April, or May. I forget. No, I think it's in May that they do their yearly revenue payouts. That we'll know by then. But yes or no, I was just hearing somewhere that's what the ACC was claiming, that in essence FSU has given their notice, and then it could be like any typical lawsuit. You claim everything. You claim everything you can. That you own the sky, you own the earth, you own everything. You own the state of Florida. It doesn't have any validity unless it's decided that it's so. But yes, sir. I think that has a lot to do with it, and I think all the little pieces and the little clues that you provide and we hear in other places, they're all kind of starting to fall into place.
Yep. And hopefully we find out in the matter of weeks when that date is for the court case in Tallahassee. That's what I'm looking forward to, is when the date is set.
Well, I'm now looking to the 14th, and between now and then, what the ACC, what their response is,
mm-hmm.
and what's the next step? Was it, I think the Attorney General talking about requesting any type of communications from the CFP and ESPN, as your phrase is, they were just kind of greasing the skids, getting ready for this because they knew this was coming. This isn't something she decided to do in the last week or two. This was coming, and they knew all this was going to play out. But yes, sir, I've been hearing some real interesting stuff, kind of whispers and things, but nothing I want to speak about because we'll just see. But I appreciate your show.
You got it. Appreciate it, Mr. Seminole. JD, beautiful call. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Great call. Let's get to a couple of super chats. Tough Tony. Plan A, records request. Plan B, subpoena. Maybe. I think Tony's asking about the plan, the Attorney General, State of Florida Attorney General. Plan A, records request. It was just a public request. But if they don't happen, or if the ACC doesn't let all those materials, those documents be open to Florida State, communications between the ACC and ESPN and all the contracts, maybe Plan B is subpoena. Or maybe Plan B is to do nothing at all and be able to have that part be part of the Florida State's case against the ACC.
Call from
ABO Prep.
Soap is on the line. Soap, can you hold on 1 second?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Just trying to get caught up here on the super chats. Tough Tony, could be. Very well, could be. Thank you for the super chat. for your generosity. I appreciate it. Opie, thank you so very much for your incredible continued generosity to Peek Around the Corner. Thank you so very much. Opie says, I see folks saying, why would ESPN pay for teams to move to the SEC? Whomever goes to the SEC, ESPN can charge a lot more for on ads. Let's say Florida State, North Carolina, UVA playing Bama, Oklahoma, Texas, LSU. Then say Florida State, Clemson playing Boston College, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. Just an observation. Opie, I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's why, one of the reasons why, we're not shutting any door down on the possibility of Florida State going to the SEC. We're not doing it. Other people are. We're not going to do it. We believe it's a chalk, the favorite, that Florida State will end up in the Big Ten, but we're not closing the door down. I agree with you. Some people out there saying there's no ESPN, they're not going to pay Florida State more money to join the SEC when they're having such a good contract in the ACC. ESPN, probably doesn't want to have to do that move. But if they do have to do that move, if Florida State does clear themselves from the ACC, ESPN, yes, they could make up the extra money because they can. Obviously, Florida State is a big brand with big viewers. And if you put them up against what your examples, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, LSU, all of the SEC, there'd be more viewership, more sponsorship, better ad rates on the live content, and they'd make that money up anyways. I agree, Opie. I absolutely agree with you. I wish I would disagree with you and make more interesting YouTube content, but I agree with you. One of the reasons why we're not closing the door on that possibility. Soap, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. May I wish you a happy New Year's.
Thank you. You too, sir.
Hey, I think the figure for the buyout is going to be in around $170 million, and the way that I came about that was $100 million for the penalty. When there are two levels of penalties, and I think the first level of penalty is around $100 million. And then I think that the contract is only going to be validated through 2027. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was an extension given to ESPN to decide whether they wanted to exercise that extension and move that date from I'm not sure when it was. It's in the past, but move it to 2025. Is that correct?
They were giving, yes, they were given the ability to walk away from the contract, from ACC's contract in 2000, with the contract after 2027 to 2036, and they were able to make that decision sometime in 2025. But it was wasn't it originally supposed to be made in like 2023? That decision?
Yeah.
Yes.
They extended that.
Yes, and the commissioner okayed that. Like, I believe that's one of the issues. Like, the commissioner okayed the delay of ESPN's ability to make a decision to extend it beyond 2027. And it was originally an earlier date. It's moved to 2025. And the commissioner, Jim Phillips, okayed it without getting the votes of the presidents. That's how I understand Florida State's argument in this. I could be wrong.
No, I do as well. I just wanted to verify that from you.
Immaculate's saying 2021, not 23.
Okay,
and that
2021.
It makes sense because Jim Phillips was commissioner in 2021. Go ahead.
Well, we can assume then that if they extended it out to 2025 from 2021, then there was a likelihood that ESPN was not going to renew that and they were going to give notice that 2027 would have been the last year of the contract.
Yes,
If
sir.
everything were great, if everything were fantastic, they would have gone ahead in 2021 and just exercised that option. There's a reason why they didn't exercise that option in 2021 and requested an extension. Only
Yes.
common sense says that. So
Yes.
my point is that decision to do that was made without the other members of the conference, and it's going to be very difficult for anyone to say right now that grant of rights can exceed beyond 2027. It's just
Yes.
in court that I just don't think it's going to hold up. So that having been said, Greg, I think that the penalty for leaving the conference will be the penalties they have in place, the first level of penalties, and then the grant of rights through 2027, which would bring the number to around 170 million. So that's how I came up with that number, and that's my that's what I think about that.
Now, and you said it a lot better than I've been able to say it. Immaculate has done the same thing. A lot of you say things a whole lot better than how I say it. That's one of the reasons why we have a live call-in show, because the PATC community is intelligent. The host is kind of wacky. But I want to add in this, though. That is why, look, if you're a person who believes that Florida State's got no chance and the court's got no chance, that's a strong position. I get it. Or if you're a person who believes that Florida State has no chance to get out of the ACC, they can't get out of the ACC, like the Monty on the Monty show. Okay, I mean, I said both the same way, but if you're a person who believes that, that's fine. But when you say that, you better understand what Soap just said, or what Immaculate has just said, and other people have just said about, and JD and Jen and other people have talked about it. There is a definite weakness to the ACC's grant of rights, which I did not know about. I don't know anybody who knew about it before the nuclear bomb was set off in the Board of Trustees meeting. So if you're a person who doesn't think Florida State has a shot, that's cool. That's fine. But please understand the weakness of the ACC case, where Jim Phillips extended the I don't know what you want to call it, the window of time that ESPN could decide whether to stop this media deal in 2027, that they could walk away. Acknowledge that. Know that part of this equation. And then if you still think that Florida State has no shot to get out, okay, that's cool. But you got to understand that part, because that was the nuclear bomb that was set off that I think has given Florida State a real credible chance at getting out of the ACC. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Soap. The floor is yours.
No. You say it great. That's why we listen to you, Greg. But I think I want to go a step further and make everybody kind of realize that I don't think ESPN is going to renew this thing in 2027. It's over. If they were going to have to do it, why haven't they done it now?
Yep.
If it's that great of a deal, they would jump over it right now and make it that much more difficult for Florida State to get out of the grant of rights. Because if they exercise that option, then there is a grant of rights binding Florida State through 2037. But right now, it's only till 27.
Yes,
and I just don't think that ESPN is going to be in the ACC business after 2027. But that's looking at the tea leaves. What I do want to one thing that I wanted to ask you about, Greg, and have you maybe explain to me this consideration with the NCAA, where the NCAA would take over the NIL, and then additionally they would have a trust fund.
The schools
that could pay patients. pay players.
Yeah.
I don't think that the NCAA or the university needs to stick their fingers into NIL. And I don't think the courts are going to really allow that, because that is what the Supreme Court specifically said. That belongs to the student. And if that money is somehow redirected to the university and the university can divvy it up however they want, that's not in the spirit of the NIL decision. Now, I do think the trust fund's a great idea, and that can be run completely through the university. But I don't think, and maybe, Mullen or, some of the other guys can explain to me how that could legally happen, where the school gets their or gets the NIL money, or the NCAA gets the NIL money. That was specifically what they were trying to prevent.
Well, now when Charlie Baker made this proposal, there's three main parts of the proposal: the NIL, the direct payment, and the subdivision. He also did say we would need Congress protection to get this done. So it might not be legal now, but if Congress can give a carve out to this, then it could possibly work. I don't think Congress could do that, because the Supreme Court said that the players are entitled to their. Okay.
I'm sorry.
But if it's a law, if it's a carve out, that it would help the situation for the now the court might still say it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well, maybe it wouldn't eliminate collectives altogether, but maybe it would just be another NIL stream for it to be managed, and who knows?
Well, the collectives could pay into the trust fund, which is great.
Yeah,
I think that money could be divvied up by the university. But when we're talking about the student athlete doing a commercial for Coca-Cola, that money shouldn't have to be routed through the university or routed through the NCAA. That should be and as far as what I read from the Supreme Court, that's pretty much what they were saying, is your name, image, and likeness belongs to you, and is not an entity of the university or the NCAA. So I don't think that they could legally do that. But I'm not a lawyer either. But that's a
good point.
Yeah. All right, Greg, that's it for me. Thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it, my friend.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it, Soap. Great call, man.
Hey, do me a favor, would you? Root for the Houston Texans in the AFC, all right?
Got it. I will do that. I'll be Greg the heater. I won't be Greg the cooler.
God bless you. Thanks, my friend. Bye-bye.
Immaculate, the opt-out clause was not known to anyone prior to this. In my opinion, it changes the positioning an awful lot. For those that thought ESPN loved that ACC deal, they probably should think again on it. Very, very well said. That changed. That was a shock. And I went crazy. I was screaming in the studio. We were covering it live. And I was screaming. I could not believe it. Because I've said how tough the grant of rights is. I have been the one for the last decade on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying, oh boy, it would be so costly and risky and all this stuff. Well, we learned about things in that deal with ACC and ESPN that we did not know before. So, phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. AL, JR, CBS, NBC, Fox, watching, rubbing their hands. This is their chance to have their Big Ten National College Football Conference. I'll tell you another person who's rubbing their hands together is Brett Yormark. Tell you that right now. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Or if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Make sure you get yourself notification. We can come up live at any time. We do not put ourselves on a set schedule, as all of you know. We surprise everybody. We can come on at 10 o'clock tonight. If there's breaking news, if there's something that I want to share with you, some information, some nugget, some cloak and dagger. We've been talking about cloak and dagger for 2 years on this college football channel. Now you understand why we talk about cloak and dagger. So it's make sure you get yourself subscribed, notified, and smash that like button if you like our content. If you don't, hit the thumbs down button and let me know how better we can serve you all in the college football community. Appreciate it. If you want to donate to this channel, support it through a donation, hit the $, put a comment. We'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Appreciate it. And if you want to become an early peak member, college footballs, cloak and dagger, early peak. If you want the early nugget on cloak and dagger information that come to us constantly, hit the join button. Become an early peak member. With early peak membership, there's early peak episodes for the members that get dropped a couple times a week. Yesterday morning, we dropped one. So take a look. Appreciate all the support. Let's get back to your comments. The phone calls are open. Phone lines open. 763-260-1333. Joe Z was thinking the same thing as Soap. NIL belongs to the athlete. Per the Supreme Court ruling, NCAA can't hinder that by forcing NIL to be routed through the schools. I want to bring up the NIL portion. Here is what, in the Yahoo Sports article, NIL. In its meeting from the convention Wednesday, the NCAA D1 Council is expected to review and adopt a proposal that addresses NIL athlete protections. These new concepts were announced in the fall and include establishing the voluntary registration process for NIL professional service providers such as agents and advisors, making it mandatory for athletes to disclose to their schools NIL deals of $600 more within 30 days of signing the agreement, creating a standardization or template for NIL contracts, developing a comprehensive educational plan for college athletes, future college athletes and agents, collectives, and advisors. Removing current policies that restrict schools from assisting enrolled athletes with NIL. So again, this is not about routing all NILs through a school, but it would include schools contracting with third-party service providers such as multimedia right holders to provide NIL support. Specified that entities that are officially affiliated or closely aligned with the school are subject to the same standards as schools, a nod to Title IX. Clearly define an NIL entity as an individual, group of individuals, or NIL collective organized to support athletic interests at a member school by compensating athletes for NIL. Prohibit NIL collectives from engaging in any contact or communication or providing benefits to a recruit until that recruit has either signed a letter of intent, begin athletic activities, or enrolled in classes. So it doesn't sound like it's all going to be controlled by the school, but there's going to be more standards, more enforcement. We'll see how that all plays out. But there is a part of that that has NIL could be more managed by the schools than themselves. Okay. Hopefully that clears up. John D., Mr. Seminole, being that Clemson isn't getting help from the state government, could the Gamecocks lobby to keep Clemson out of the SEC? Is it B, Big Ten, or bust? I don't know. We don't think any doors have been closed on Clemson. We don't know how wide the door is open in the Big Ten of the SEC, but we think they've gotten enough.
Call from
Steve.
Steve, can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We think they've gotten enough positive feedback. That's why we believe they're going to go somewhat the same route as Florida State. Sometime in January or February, 3rd week, 4th week January, 1st week February. So now the Gamecocks, will they internally try to shut the door down on Clemson within the SEC? I think people have reported on maybe they will. I think Ross Dellinger has said that. They've also reported that Florida Gators will probably have a bigger voice, more influence in the SEC to keep Florida State out of the SEC than South Carolina will be able to keep a Clemson out of the SEC. That's also has been publicly reported on. Us at Peek Around the Corner, our stance is no doors have been completely shut on Florida State's options, Clemson's options, North Carolina options, and we think there is a door open for Miami to possibly get through into the Big Ten. And of course, whatever happens with Virginia Tech has a lot to do with internal politics. Thank you, JD, for the super chat. I appreciate your wonderful phone calls, contributions to our channel. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it, sir. Steven, Mr. Bearcat, thank you for your patience. The floor is absolutely yours.
I wasn't even going to call in, Greg, because so many callers have made so many great points that I really didn't have anything to add to it. But you brought up your Mark, and he's quietly sitting there. What's your thoughts on what he is? I know you can't get into his mind, obviously, but what he's thinking right now as he's watching everything unfold.
I think he's. I think nothing is surprising him. I don't think anything is surprising him. I think they have a read on it. They have a beat on it. That's why. No offense to any Western university out there. No offense to Oregon State, Washington State, but this is why your Mark was never going to fill up that 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th spot until there is the implosion of the ACC. I don't think anybody is surprised by what's going on. I mean, maybe surprised. No, that nuclear bomb that went off, right, in the Board of Trustees, that surprised everybody.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
This the continued this next realignment wave. We have the athletic director of Washington, a new athletic director that came from Tulane. He's talking about just wait, buckle up. You haven't seen nothing yet. The next realignment wave. I think your Mark is waiting patiently. He's not going to do anything until he sees how this plays out in the ACC.
Yeah, and you know, he's obviously the Big 12 is with ESPN, and he probably, and maybe people disagree with me, probably got to tread a little lightly for now until he sees how the first four or how many teams leave. And then, then maybe he swoops in with, and I know Fox is sitting there too, and they've treated the Big 12 pretty good in the first, in the years they've had them. Do you think your Mark's just sitting there gone, okay, we're going to have 44 pretty good candidates if this thing really blows up, but we've got to watch what we do with our media partners?
Yes. And Brett Yormark and this is no secret, has a great relationship with his media partners. So
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. It's just, as JD has said, and like I said, all the other callers today have been unbelievable
Yeah.
with their input.
Yeah.
Um,
They always are. Yep.
it's a matter of now, to me, JD said 60 or 90 days or 2 years. I just think this thing, with everything we've heard in the last 30 days, this thing is on a faster track than anybody anticipated. Am I right in looking at that like that, Greg, or do you think it's really could draw out for a long time?
Oh, we're gonna have to wait to see what. My answer to that is I have no idea. I want to see what this when the date is for the court case. If we get to that court case involving a Tallahassee judge stating how much enforceability is this grant of rights, and if we get through that, we'll see what the judge says, and then we'll have a strong indication how much longer this goes.
Right, and and with the ACC basically being going after in the court, going after Florida State. But other than that, it seems like Florida State I don't know the best way to put it, Greg, wants to get the upper hand, wants to be the one to push everything, and the ACC just kind of, other than that lawsuit, just kind of sitting there, and you don't hear a lot. You don't hear a lot out of Phillips, other than towing the company line. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and I don't think we're going to hear much out of him because he's got his eyes set on Florida State. I think he's waiting for the other shoe to drop, for another school to come into it. So I think he's going to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah. All right, Greg, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to get your opinion on a few things.
You got it. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Steve.
Yep, talk to you.
Mr.
Bye.
Bearcat. Yep, we did capture that breaking news. Thank you, Casey, for letting us know in the chat. We did break that right when it was announced. Cooper DeJean is going into the NFL draft. We also have some other breaking news. Big news for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State quarterback Alan Bauman granted an additional year of eligibility after a successful waiver request submitted to the NCAA. This would be Bauman's 7th year of college football, second at Oklahoma State, which returns 19 starters. 19 starters to 2024. The Cowboys came out pretty strong at the end of the year. Bauman had a decent year, so big news for Oklahoma State Cowboys. I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen, so probably isn't a big shocker, great news for Oklahoma State Cowboys, but still, it's, yes, Purple Orca, 7-year seniors. It can happen with the COVID year. We're almost out of that window, though. We're almost out of that COVID window. There was another comment here. And of course, I lost it. ACC Network's not losing money. If you got that link or some news, give it to me, AAR. But the ACC Network is actually... Now, they've lost... everyone has lost subscribers lately. But the ACC network is able to kick out a few $1 million to each one of their schools after ESPN gets a cut of it. You are correct, John Dry, former Texas Tech starter. Matt Neeson, I think the ACC will push Florida State to court up until ACC ESPN have to show discovery. Then settlement will be agreed upon. A lot of people, including myself, believe that everything we're watching now is a game of leverage. Both sides are trying to gain leverage. So, again, a lot of it, let's just see when it is scheduled. The court case in Tallahassee. And then if that happens, we'll see what the judge says. Right? So, it is very interesting times. I think we're going to shut this live feed down for now. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. Big breaking news. Florida, the Attorney General, has joined in the fray. 10-day requests for the ACC ESPN to hand over communications between the two of them in regards to the TV contracts. Anything that has to do with Florida State. Florida State, the Attorney General says the Florida State Seminoles, the university, should be able to look at all those documents that are in a vault in Charlotte. They should be able to take a copy home. They should be able to read it at any time they want. Those are public records for a public university as Florida State. The Attorney General has asked for the request. January 14th. Will the ACC and ESPN abide? We're going to find out. What happens if they don't? Then what does the Attorney General do after January 14th? A subpoena? Go to court? What's the next step for the Attorney General of Florida? And of course, all eyes are on Clemson. And then we have the big news convention next week. They're going ahead. There's a lot of inertia, a lot of positive inertia going on in regards to Charlie Baker's radical proposals. So we'll see what happens there next week. So many things going on here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you, Xmas Tox C. William here. Thoughts on the Gore bring with ACC, not ESPN. ESPN renewing has no impact. ACC still has Florida State rights or whatever they signed past 2027. Yeah, look, the grant of rights is between the ACC and Florida State. But again, it comes down to the penalties. How can you penalize Florida State for year 2028, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, when there's not even a media contract with ESPN that is assured for those same years? How can the penalty of ESPN walking away is nothing, but the penalty of Florida State walking away from this grant of rights cost them $572 million? You're correct, technically. But if ESPN would walk away in 2027, there is no distribution rights that the ACC has. So therefore, there's nothing there. I believe Florida State has a better case than I ever would have imagined because none of us knew this information. And then when you go and you know that Jim Phillips in 2021 extended the grace period of when ESPN could decide on if they're going to shut it down in 2027. It extended into 2025 when Jim Phillips made the decision without granting the presidents a vote on this decision. Again, this is all about leverage, right? This is all about leverage in the courts. I think Florida State has a better case than I would have ever imagined. I've been talking about for a decade how hard it is. It's going to be able to break a Gore to be able to go to the courts and get a settlement with the conference. I said it was basically impossible. Well, the impossible, I think, has arrived because of the stuff we've been talking about, because of what the Board of Trustees, the nuclear bomb that they set off in that meeting. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much, your generosity. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, Xmas, Toxi. I hope I'm saying that right. Big 12 Mafia calling it now. Florida State pays less than $100 million. Ooh. I don't know about that, Nathan. I don't know about that. I'm still I'm looking at $200 million. I'm looking at $200 million at least. But everybody thinks I'm wrong, so we shall see. I think there's got to be a number there high enough for ACC to settle, that for them to actually say yes. We shall see. Jacino says $3.50. Congo says 85 to 150 million. Lorenzo says less than 200 million. Okay, so we're going to shut it down for tonight. I appreciate you all coming in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and get yourself notified, because we can come up live at any time. We're dropping episodes almost daily here at Peek Around the Corner. College football is Peek Around the Corner. Before you leave, please smash the like button if you liked our content. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button and let me know in the comment section or on X. Give me a post. Tell me what we need to do to improve our college football channel. I want to thank everybody, all the incredible comments and the unbelievable phone calls. Wow. The PATC community brings it every day, and today was no different. The PATC community was on fire. Fuego. Unbelievable. Thank you for the great phone calls, the donations, for all the support. Keep an eye on everything going on in the college football landscape. Keep your head on a swivel. We could be coming up live again tonight. Who knows? So keep an eye on us until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so